much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Cardin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me thank both of our witnesses for their extraordinary leadership at the United Nations and USAID. First, I just want to underscore the point that the United States and the Congress has been responsive to the food insecurity issues. We have provided substantial amount of funding, as you pointed out. We don't see the commensurate response by our allies internationally. And I would first underscore the point that we need to develop a unified strategy to get the type of help internationally to deal with these issues that have been provided by the United States. And I say that because both of you have underscored the point that Russia has weaponized food. We shouldn't be surprised. We know their asymmetric arsenal that they've used before. They've used energy as a coercive form to try to get countries to do certain things. They've used misinformation. They have funded extreme groups. They do all these things in order to advance their cause. So we shouldn't be surprised that they would weaponize food. So I guess my question to both of you is how are we developing a war-type strategy to counter Russia's use of food as a weapon? I recognize that the United Nations plays a critical role. The World Food Program plays a critical role within the United Nations. USAID plays a direct role also. But we have non-governmental partners that help us. I'm proud of the Catholic Relief Services, which is headquartered in Maryland, the role that they play. So can you tell me how you are developing a strategy to recognize this is not just a traditional problem of food insecurity, which is an area we have to deal with, but we have to be mindful that we're working in a war environment with Russia using this as a tactic? How do we organize our allies around the world to respond in a way that's commensurate with the problem Russia is creating?
Let me start, and just to say that we really have worked hard to mobilize a broad coalition of allies and countries using diplomacy. It started in New York with Secretary Blinken calling his first ministerial to bring the world together in May, where he laid out very, very clearly the Russian objective and the false narrative that the Russians have been pushing forward. 100 countries then signed on to the roadmap that we put together. We extended that diplomacy in the G7, in the G20, and as well as during the President's recent visit to the Middle East. Samantha, as you heard, is going out to Africa tonight. I'm leaving in about 10 days to do the same thing, to engage with these countries, to help them to come to grips with the disinformation campaign that the Russians have initiated. And I think they're not being fooled. And then we're galvanizing more donors to make contributions.
Let me interrupt for a moment, because I'm pleased that you're visiting the sites that need attention and need to understand the causes and need to know the tools that are available to help. My concern is that we have our so-called allied countries that are part of our alliance in our support for Ukraine. I don't necessarily see them recognizing the same degree that food is being used as a weapon of war. So, my concern is, do we have a strategy to engage our supportive countries to be more participatory in dealing with the challenges that we have and recognizing this is a Putin strategy, and therefore needs, as we provide weapons and to defend Ukraine, as we provide direct support, we also need to be providing help in regards to the problems Russia is creating with food insecurity.
Could I give a few examples, maybe, Linda? First, again, I think we're all in violent agreement that the response needs to be more multilateralized, that those who are lagging need to step up. It's something that Ambassador Thomas-Greenfield is working every day in New York, that Secretary Blinken's working around the world. I will say, Senator, of the European countries, again, they have opened their doors to the refugees. That is not without cost. European Commission President van der Leyen has just also announced more than $6 billion toward reconstruction, so they're also thinking ahead. And if I could answer your question a slightly different way, but in parallel to Linda's comments, I think one of the answers to your questions comes down to the word resilience. And what we are doing, what we USAID on the ground, thanks to the infusion of resources from you, but also our pre-existing programs, which were heading in this direction anyway, is building Ukraine's capacity not to be dependent, for example, on everything from the Russian export market to Russia's actions in the Black Sea. We are now working to ensure that they have the barges to use the rivers, that they're able to modernize their rail lines so those can connect with Europe. This isn't to say that we anticipate there being a Black Sea crisis every year for the rest of time. This war has to end. Putin has to end it. But it does mean that diversification is really important. In Africa, it's the same issue. Linda knows well from all of her time there the dependence that so many countries have, for example, on Russian fertilizer. It's the #1 fertilizer producer, exporter in the world. And that is not a reliable source of fertilizer. So we are seeking to diversify and also to ensure that there's in Africa production of fertilizer, as well as food sovereignty in countries that are too import dependent.
Make Black Sea security part of our strategy.
Senator Shaheen.